Connie Jubb is a very, very special lady. She is the co-author of LifeFood Recipe Book, which I'm reading at the moment, Colloidal Biology and Secrets of an Alkaline Body. So welcome to our show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So you've just opened your new shop in Hollywood, haven't you, recently?
Yes, we have a beautiful new store here called LifeFood Organic. Everything is 100% organic, and it's raw living foods, which is sort of the science of preparing foods without any heat involved. So all the enzymes are still there. So it's really the healthiest types of food that we could have and the most healing foods on the planet.
Wow. That does sound amazing.
Well, and I try to make them super tasty, too, and then, using familiar recipes, which is that unique twist that everything is unheated. So we're using blenders, we're dehydrating at a lower temperature so that all the enzymes survive. And everything's just really yummy and delicious. So my goal was that anybody on any kind of a diet could come in there and find a delicious meal and really be inspired to eat in a more healthy way because it's really so yummy and delicious.
Wow, this just sounds incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, I remember you telling me before that you've got something called Life Food Lasagna.
Oh, the lasagna is off the hook. It's so yummy. It has all the familiar flavors and textures. We make, nothing is, we have a few dairy products, but almost everything is just all vegan. So we make a vegan macadamia nut ricotta cheese, and then there's a marinara sauce and a pesto, all layered with wonderful vegetables. And instead of using pasta, we use a mandolin, a very thinly sliced zucchini, which is like, the squash zucchini.
Yeah.
And we marinate that a little bit, too, in a bath so that it's really flavorful and has a good texture, almost like a noodle kind of a texture to it.
Delicious.
And it's just really, really lovely. It's a beautiful dish. It's probably our signature dish there.
That just sounds absolutely fab. I think I need to come to your store just to try that dish alone. It just sounds so great. I will, definitely. Wow. I mean, it sounds absolutely fantastic. I mean, you also had a show on air, didn't you, on television called The Universe Inside Our Minds?
I did, and actually some of them are up on YouTube now. One of our students sort of took the liberty of putting some of them up there. I did that with my ex-husband, Dr. David Jubb, and we're still very friendly, and we had a really long run of working together. We ran an outpatient fasting clinic in New York for 10 years, and the show kind of came at the end of that. We did it for about 2 years, and really with our work in behavior physiology, which kind of came before nutrition, and then marrying that with nutrition, too, because there's no separating out, the body from the mind experience of itself. So
absolutely.
Just all things that allow us to live more in the whole of ourselves and to have good communication with each other.
I think it's becoming more and more apparent, the body, mind, and spirit connection. I think more and more people and psychologists in corporate companies are recognizing that as something that's becoming quite prominent, that there is a connection there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no separating it out. If you... somebody could come up and say something to you that makes you blush incredibly, right? So that's a vasodilation. That was something that was just said to you. It wasn't, anything. They didn't touch you. They just suggested something to you, and all of a sudden you're blushing. Or on the other end of it, they could say something that so frightened you that you turned quite white. So that's a vasoconstriction. The veins get really constricted, and all of that is just our emotional, physiological response to the environment. And so all of that is very much connected. And even nutrition, I treat a lot of my clients for emotional and behavioral conditions through the food that they're eating. And all food has an expression into the emotional realms. And so, even like they did an experiment kind of maybe about in the mid-'90s, I think it was, where they went into a schizophrenic ward and they removed all of the wheat and dairy from their diet, and about 80% of them had a remarkable improvement.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, the wheat casein and the dairy casein, rather, and the wheat gluten together really compromise the immune system, especially for people that have celiac disease.
Yes.
Which is kind of a little bit, everybody has a little bit of that these days,
and
to more extremes. And so just having those sort of toxins removed from the diet allowed the brain functioning to get much more streamlined,
Absolutely. I mean, I know of so many people as friends and family who are now on these gluten-free, wheat-free diets. Has become quite popular recently. People now looking into the foods that they're eating and cutting out things. I know, especially my brother, he's gone into veganism, which is no dairy at all, and he finds tremendous benefits of just cutting out things like that, and it really does make a difference.
Yes, absolutely, and it's mostly because of the massive factory farming of the dairy animals. In a perfect world, if you knew the cow and the cow ate a natural diet, which is grass, and then you ate, that you were able to milk the cow and have fresh, raw, living milk, Well, that's a beautiful food. But then if you take that and take it from a cow that's not living a healthy diet and living, in a very overcrowded environment, eating corn, which is not its natural food. So it has to have antibiotics and steroids and growth hormones in there so it doesn't get sick from the corn.
Yeah.
And then you take that and put it into a massive pool of milk and homogenize it and pasteurize it, and then you have a very different kind of a food. It's not the same at all, and it's very much a mucus-forming food.
Yeah, that's very true. I've also done a lot of reading myself on things like pasteurization and dairy and things like that. And one trend coming up at the moment is raw, live milk and dairy. So that's dairy that's not been pasteurized. It's completely raw and enzyme rich. It's not been put through any heating process at all. What do you feel about that?
Oh, it's a beautiful food. I mean, that food is designed to take a 150-pound calf and turn it into a 2,000-pound heifer in a really short period of time. It's a beautiful growing food. It's loaded with vitamins and minerals. On the cover of my books, I used a kirlean camera which photographs the life force around any living thing. So I photographed living food, like on the recipe book, it's a star fruit. And you can see the radiant spectrum of light around this food and these tendrils of electricity coming off of it. And that food actually has that, that's the kind of food that we're more living on, is the energy around the food, which sounds a little airy-fairy, but now it's all very scientifically proven. So if you look at a living milk, a raw organic milk from a healthy cow, it has a beautiful floral-like pattern around it. It looks like a beautiful flower. And then if you pasteurize and homogenize it, it has no color to it whatsoever. It's just like a red plate. And so, that gives you a real visual example of, a living food as opposed to a food that's been totally cooked and there's no enzymes left in it.
I think that's absolutely fascinating because I have both your books, actually. I've got Secrets of an Alkaline Body, which I'm reading, and also I have your LifeFood Recipe Book, which I have to say is absolutely fantastic. And I love the juices that you've got in there. I think my personal favourite has to be your Brazil nut milk. And I know for the listeners out there, actually, if you're wondering what this is all about, Annie's actually co-authored 2 books, well, 3 books actually. So it's the LifeFood Recipe Book, which is a book of all your recipes, all your life food recipes. And also you've got a couple of science type books, which is Colloidal Biology and Secrets of an Alkaline Body, and that's kind of the science behind what life feed is all about.
It is. The recipe book is just a real handbook. Anybody with really a 10th grade education could easily understand everything in it, and it really sort of maps out why this is a really lovely thing to incorporate into your diet. And I actually wrote it for people that were really suffering from very severe degenerative diseases. So there's also my 14-day life food nutritional fast in there with the liver and gallbladder flushes, which tells you how to really walk your way back to health from whatever condition that you are in, but most specifically cancer. That it's kind of written for that because so much of our clientele, when we were running the outpatient fasting clinic, had cancers that needed to be healed and did heal. And so the recipe book has all these recipes in it too. I try to keep them kind of simple, though. I'm a bit of a chef at heart too, so some of them are really quite, a little more elaborate if you want to go into making your own seed cheeses and the fermenting of these types of things. The Rejuvelac we talked about on the phone the other day, and things like that. But really, there's smoothies, there are electrolyte lemonades, things that you can make in a blender in your kitchen with really pretty simple ingredients.
Fabulous. It looks like there's something out there for everyone to try, all different levels.
Well, there is, and it's really, what I try to encourage people to do is wherever you're at in your diet, begin anywhere, really. If you like to have, you like lemonade, well, go ahead and look at how you make a living lemonade, it really just takes some lemons and a little bit of a sweetener, maybe honey, and you can really make it as simple or as fancy as you like. And drinking that a couple of times a day will really hydrate the blood. It's a nice liver cleanser, and it's just a very good way to make the blood very clean and very slippery. And it's delicious. You can give it to a small child, you can give it to an older person, and everybody can enjoy a good lemonade.
I've tried this electrolyte lemonade myself, and it's just beautiful. And I actually prefer it to your normal, regular, sugary lemonade that you can buy from the supermarket. So it really is something special.
The electrolyte lemonade has just a little pinch of living sea salt in it and a little bit of oil as well. And so that's what really helps with brain functioning for the oil, like a coconut oil is what we use in there typically. And then the sea salt has it has 88 minerals in it, which are the same 88 minerals that we find in our own blood, our own body serum,
Yeah.
liquid in our body. Like that's why we have salty tears, for example. And so it's a really wonderful, easy way to mineralize your body.
Wow. Absolutely fantastic. Really, I mean, it's something that everyone can try, and it's so simple and easy to make.
It's 5 ingredients. Just throw it into your blender and blend it up. It really takes about 4 or 5 minutes to make.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. So I would encourage all our listeners out there, if you're in a hospital, you're recovering from an injury, or you've got something a bit more serious, to really try some of these recipes. You can just pick up a copy of the book, order it over Amazon or something, and you can just try a couple of the recipes. I've tried a few, and I really felt a difference in my health and the way I feel. I mean, in her book, in your book that you've actually written, you talk about so much of what we eat is emotionally encrypted as well. So, for example, you're feeling low, you reach for something sugary, to pick you up. So something like that really does resemble what you're feeling at the time. So if you're eating something healthy, organic, natural and live all the time, then you're not as likely to get these peaks and troughs in your feelings and emotions, because you'll feel a lot more balanced as an individual.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially like the real starchy foods that we eat, bread, corn, rice, potatoes, this type of a thing, especially if they're really commercially produced, and those are kind of comfort foods too. So when you're eating them, perhaps you're feeling like you need comfort. There's maybe some fears or worries that are going on in your life. Well, unless you really, really exercise that out and do some tissue cleansing, you're going to start storing that material. And, it stores right throughout the entire vascular system, right through the body in the form of gallstones or bile in the liver, or right through the intestinal tract. And so doing some tissue cleansing really pulls that material out. It can also be formed it's very much formed as mucus in the body as well. And so when you do some tissue cleansing and break that down, as in my 14-day fast, nutritional fast, so you're drinking a lot of beverages, you're hydrating, and you're getting a lot of nutrients in, but it's all blended or juiced. And that starts to break that mucus down. It starts to exit. You just defecate it out easily. And all of a sudden you notice that you're not carrying around as much baggage from the past, because all of that material that was stored years and years ago in your body is just being cleared out. And you're much more current in your life. And that's something that I've really, really noticed, in the last 22 years of working with this, with living foods, raw living foods.
So you're a lot more switched on, a lot more alert, because your body is flooded with the right, correct nutrition for your body.
Absolutely, and your senses become more alive too. Your vision gets better, your sense of smell becomes really peaked, your hearing becomes cleared, so all of your senses become much more alive. And you really are more living in the moment, instead of carrying the past around with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, one other thing that's been going on in the health industry at the moment is that we have been completely flooded and saturated with fad diets, things like counting calories, eating plans, promising the world, What's different about this program? Because this program to me doesn't seem like a diet, it seems like a lifestyle change.
It is a lifestyle change. And what I really looked at when I first came into nutrition, and I sort of came in sideways because I wasn't really looking for, I was healthy myself, so I wasn't really looking for answers to my own conditions, but my clients were coming to me with, all of a sudden, this is from 85 to maybe 89, and they were getting sicker and sicker, and I was like, what's going on? What's happening here? Why does now 1 in 20 people have some kind of a cancer? Why is obesity suddenly starting? Why is diabetes type 2 so prevalent all of a sudden? So I started looking for answers for my clients, and I thought, well, there's so many modern foods, even at that time, and it's more now, but about 30% of the American diet, and I'm sure in Europe as well, was new foods. They were, invented in a laboratory, sometime in the last 20 or 30 years before this. So, they were, flavorings and seasonings and additives and food coloring dyes and chemicals that are called excitotoxins. So they're designed to excite your salivatory glands so that you'll eat a food that's been canned from, years or has a shelf life of many years. And because normally you wouldn't eat that food, your body would have a sensory override that says, that's not food. So these chemicals are designed to get you to eat that food, and they put a ton of it in baby food.
Gosh.
But anyway, so I started looking at, I would say, well, what have we always eaten? What has always been good? What were we eating 10,000 years ago? We were picking things off trees, we were pulling, berries off of plants. So what have we always eaten that's always been good for us? And so really this living food is really just looking at what our natural diet has always been, is now, and will forever be in terms of health.
Yeah.
So really it should be familiar to everybody. And unfortunately, I know in America, especially in the Midwest, between the coasts, there's, people that hardly ever eat anything fresh. So, it's kind of new for them. So even eating an apple a day, for example, would be something new and different. They're used to packaged foods and a lot of processed foods and, fast foods through drive-ins and all of that. So really just, start anywhere. And, even if you're eating very little raw foods, just start with your favorite thing. Like, I've always liked pears, well, if pears are in season, go get some pears, But any fresh food, certainly organic food is always better because there's more nutrient in the soil of living food, of organic food.
Mm-hmm.
And, begin wherever you really have a palate for that particular food. Some people are really, don't like green things. Well, maybe they like yellow things. Maybe they start switching just as simple from switching from potatoes to yams. Yams have much less starch, much less sugar, and a much more healthy biochemical response in the body from them. They're less hybridized. They're more natural.
Absolutely. And I think it's all about making small incremental steps in your diet. I mean, no one is really going to do a massive, huge change in one day. I think it takes time and it's a gradual process. So in terms of somebody that's totally new to live food and wants to get healthy, energetic, and feel that sense of vitality again, what would you recommend? How could they start?
Well, start with something simple, maybe if you have a blender, make some lemonade and make a pitcher of lemonade and just have a couple glasses a day. And even then you'll notice, well, I'm a little more hydrated. Some people don't even like to drink water because their water is so hard or acidic. Most tap water here in America, and I know in Europe as well, runs through pipes for miles and miles and miles that often have lead soldering to them. Mm-hmm. So they're picking up that lead along the way, and they're picking up a lot of debris. And it becomes very much more, less like it is in nature, like in a waterfall or in a river or stream. And so, maybe the first step is just getting a good water filter, and having some purified water because, purified water is delicious. It tastes really good. And maybe just, picking that up and saying, well, I only have tea or I don't have any fresh water in my diet. Well, maybe just adding a glass or two of water and beginning there. Becoming more hydrated because then the blood is more slippery. And viscous blood is what makes us feel grumpy and tired and sleepy. And having really hydrated blood gives us energy and makes us feel good and is better brain functioning.
Absolutely. I think that's just a really, really realistic and practical way of starting. Anyone can do it. Like you said, a simple jug of lemonade to start can really hydrate the body and make the blood slippery. I think that's a fantastic start for anyone looking to improve their energy and health levels. You mentioned your 14-day nutritional fast. Could you run us through that? What does that really involve? And how simple is that to implement?
Pretty simple. I mean, you can dial it down to its most simple place, or you can get very fancy with it. But its most simple place is just there's no solid food and no cooked food for the 14 days. So basically, you're making smoothies. You can have a smoothie for breakfast, for example. You can make raw blended soups, like a gazpacho, but you want to blend it so it's very fine. You can have the electrolyte lemonade. You can make a nut milk, which is a bit like soy milk, but you're making it out of a nut or a seed. And all of that is very simple.
And it's yummy.
Ingredients. The blender, you like the Brazil nut milk?
I love it.
And so you're just drinking beverages right throughout the day, and you should never be hungry on the program. You can have as much as you like. Why do we blend everything? We blend it because we just don't chew our food as well as we ought to. So most of us are eating foods and just not chewing them so well. So a lot of that material just passes straight through us, and you're not getting gaining the vitamins and the minerals and the nutrients. It's actually there in the food. So in a simple way, you can just blend everything, put it into the blender, and then on day, if you're doing the whole 14-day, on day 4, 8, and 11, you sit down with some olive oil and you mix it with citrus juices, and you drink that down, and it's all outlined in my recipe book.
Yeah.
But that's a liver and gallbladder flush. The gallbladder flush is just a bit more oil than the liver flushes, right?
Okay.
So what happens is when you drink that oil, it moves into the liver, and you've already prepared with 3 days of living foods, the body becomes very elastic, and it just cleans out the liver and gallbladder. And it's a bit of a science project. The next morning, in your bowel movement, all this just floats on the surface of the toilet water, so you can have a look and you can see what's come out of you, and it'll be bile colors. They'll be like, anything from bilirubin, sort of root beers, to, the green range of bile and all of that.
Yeah.
You can see what's coming out. And what happens with that is that the body, the liver especially, becomes much more efficient in what it does. There's over 100 different functions of the liver, and basically it really turns food into energy. And so however it's functioning is how you're going to feel energetically. So
Fantastic.
I don't care if somebody has a brain tumor, if they've got gout in their toe, we always start cleaning at the liver, because that's what I find is the most important organ of the body, the most regenerative organ of the body. It's the warmest organ in the body. And so really in 14 days you can reverse years of buildup, and you'll look like $1 million too, I got to tell you. It's a real beauty treatment.
Wow, so it's something that your friends and family can notice, that, you're looking quite trim, quite toned, and quite radiant, actually.
Everybody will mention it too, especially towards the end of the fast. Your eyes become so clear, and the whites of the eyes become so white. And people come up to you and they'll just start looking in your eyes. They're like, "What are you doing? What's going on with you?"
Wow.
Just cleaning up my liver and my blood, and and you'll shed a few pounds if you need to. It'll certainly bring some tone to your musculature, and it starts to remove lactic acid buildup in the muscles, and so feel better in your body each day as it goes along. It'll make your joints a little juicier, synovial fluid is more activated.
This is just so exciting.
It starts to roll back the conditions of degenerative disease, which is all, perfectly reversible. In my world, the body is an absolutely perfect self-correcting mechanism. If it's not working well, there's too many toxins and not enough nutrients. And that is completely, you can work with that.
Fantastic. I mean, this is just so exciting. It's something that's really practical, very realistic. All you really need is a blender and, and a copy of your book, which is very easy to get hold of on the internet. And then you can just start. You can just jump on the 14-day nutritional fast.
And actually, I wanted to tell you, too, in the next couple of weeks, all of my books are going to be put up to ebooks, too, so you can just download them onto your Kindle.
Oh, wow. Even more easier, then. Oh, fantastic.
It's the modern world. We're all going electronic.
We are. Everything's on the internet. Everything's on Kindles. I mean, it is just absolutely amazing. There's just so much out there. There's so much information and knowledge out there to improve your health and your diet. And, actually the best thing about using the Kindle, which means that people can take the copy of your recipes wherever they are. If they're at work or at their friend's house, if they want to quickly put something together, then they can do by just following your recipes.
You can download it on your iPhone.
Oh, perfect. I have an iPhone, so I think I'll be doing that. Oh, brilliant. This is just great. So the best thing about it is that whatever disease or condition or anything that anyone is suffering out there, it's totally reversible because the body is a self-correcting mechanism.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even, so-called genetic dispositions and all of that. I think it really, there's a little bit of that, but all of that can even be improved with some tissue cleansing and an attention to a really high-integrity, nutrient-dense diet. And actually what I've found is most of the stuff that's so-called genetic is actually just that we're eating the same foods that our parents ate and that their grandparents ate.
Yeah.
So it's more like a behavioral genetic type of disposition rather than anything else. And so all of that is something that you can work with and change. I'm
just so intrigued about your liver and your gallbladder flushes. So really, that all that really means is by drinking the special oil that you mentioned, really does flush out those organs.
Yeah, and it isn't even that special. It's your average, olive oil. You just use a good olive oil and mix it with citrus juices. Drink that down, and then it's going to just move. It's going to open up your bile ducts, and it's going to move things down. And there's a little bit more to it, but that's the basic outline structure of it. And even if you did just that, you'd be totally fine. Anything that comes in is going to go out, and you'll notice, like I said, you'll notice what's being eliminated the next day. It's very much self-validated. Yeah,
absolutely.
You can to show your efforts having some fruition.
You can see what's happened, what's come out, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to really be getting on this very soon. So, for all our listeners out there, this is something absolutely fantastic. I'd really, really encourage you to try Annie's work and to try her recipe book because it really is fantastic. Annie, what would you say are your 5 top tips to stay healthy for anyone?
Well, number 1, hydrate with alkaline water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what that is, you'll want to do a little bit of research and just, the alkaline range goes from 1 to 14, and so anything above 7 is going to be alkaline water, and have enough of it. It depends. Your needs for water are going to be, like if you exercise very vigorously, you're going to need more water than somebody who's quite sedentary, but still we need the water to hydrate.
Absolutely.
The next thing I would say would be more green vegetables. Green vegetables are the big healers, and you have to chew them well enough or else throw them in the blender and blend them into something. You can juice them as well. But green is clean. Green is full of chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is like the blood of the plant. In fact, biochemically, it looks just exactly the same.
Oh, really?
Except for in humans, we have iron in the center of our blood, and chlorophyll has magnesium. So magnesium is one of our biggest healers. I have all my clients on a magnesium supplement, and then also just doing more greens, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say is to go organic if you can.
Okay.
With all of your vegetables, and even with any meats that you're eating as well. Make sure that the animals were organically raised, and organics are just really important not only for the planet, because that's what our children are going to be eating in the future, rather than a bunch of pesticide and mineral depleted soil. We're going to leave them really good organic soil, and any minerals that are in the soil are going to be in that food, and so it's a better food for you, right?
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is if you're eating any animal products, including dairy, to really investigate what kind of a quality of life that animal had.
Yeah.
Eat animals, only animals that lived a beautiful life and died a victorious death.
Aww.
And especially that it ate its natural diet. So grass-fed animals, very important. Chickens that add pasture and they're eating little bugs and worms. Their natural diet, and they're going to be the healthiest animals that don't need, to have antibiotics and hormones and steroids in them, because we're all getting secondary antibiotics from any animal that has been, injected with antibiotics, and so then our immune systems get, a little less healthy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, that's 4 things. That would be the 5th thing I would say is to actually have, a day or 2 of pure veganism.
Mm-hmm.
If you're eating just a lot of meat and potatoes, just go 1 or 2 days a week, whatever is doable for you, and just say, like that, I'm going to do all vegan, which is just plant-based diet, once or twice a week. And, like they've started a trend here in America called Meat-Free Mondays, and a lot of schools have picked that up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Having a vegetarian, I don't know if it's all vegan, but it's certainly vegetarian, like that's Meatless Mondays is what they're doing. And so that's a trend that can move right around the planet. It requires an enormous amount of our natural resources to raise animals. Like a cow, for example, it requires something like, I know it's not in the metric system, but it's like 5,500 gallons of water, which is enough water to grow, so much plant, much vegetation. And that's just what it's, like the animal eats a lot of grain, and so most of the grain in the world is actually fed to these animals. Whereas if we raise less animals because we're eating less of them, and we ate that grain ourselves, we'd be much more, utilizing the resources of this planet for a much longer time. And, of course, the runoff from, the animals is quite polluting, isn't it? Also,
yeah.
What runs downstream from having animals grazing. So,
definitely.
Caring for the planet and being more conscious and also healthier too.
Yeah.
And you'll lose a little weight and you'll feel better about things.
Definitely. I think it's about getting back to nature as well a bit more, and looking at what the natural foods are and really embracing them on a daily basis, or as much as possible. So I just think it's fabulous. It really is. Your lifestyle, your recipe book, I think it's something for everyone. Quite simple, straightforward, and it does take some discipline. But it's very, very realistic and very practical for anyone wanting to improve their health and improving their levels of fitness. And this is not all about going to the gym. It's about eating well, eating healthy foods that are really going to give you the enzymes and the nutrition that's going to ultimately give you a longer lifestyle, a longer and healthier lifestyle.
Absolutely. And like I said, begin anywhere at all. Whatever appeals to you. If If you like, if you drink a lot of dairy milk, try making a Brazil nut milk or an almond milk or anything else like that, and see if you don't just love that just as much. But healthier for you. There's no mucus forming aspect to it. Just be simple and start wherever it makes sense for you to begin.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our show.
Well, thank you so much, Jane. I really enjoyed time with you and your listeners.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful moments for me.
So I'd just like to remind our listeners of ways to contact you. So you've got your LifeFood store in Hollywood. It's called the Life Organic Store.
Yeah, it's LifeFood Organic.
LifeFood Organic Store in Hollywood.
And we have lifefoodorganic.com. It's LifeFood, organic.com. And then I'm Annie Jubb, and I have AnnieJubb.com as well. ANNIEJUBB as in Bumblebee.
Fantastic. Well, if anyone wants to get in touch with Annie, please feel free. She is an absolutely gem of a person. So thank you so much, Annie, and hopefully I will speak to you very, very soon. I'll keep in touch with you and let you know how I do with the 14-day nutritional fast.